see if I could fix this so that my glasses aren't doing what they're doing right now. Let's see if we can find a better place. So today I want to talk to you guys about embarrassment. First though, I want to show you, look outside you guys. Look at the snow. It's snowing!
Rafi's Rambles, Rafi's Rambles, Rafi's Rambles.
Hola, you amazing artist, and welcome to the embarrassment that is my life. I'm just kidding. Any of you that have been putting yourselves out there, you know that it sucks when you get embarrassed. You are either going to stutter, you are either going to turn red. If you're like me, your ears are gonna turn red. You're gonna fidget with yourself. You're gonna do that weird nervous laughter thing that people do. There are all kinds of things that happen when you end up getting embarrassed about something.
I remember one time I was out to lunch with a friend of mine, and I was trying to be cool and posh because I thought he was cute. And he turned to me and said, "You know, you eat soup like the Predator." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, you do this weird thing as your mouth approaches the spoon, like, you eat soup like the Predator."
You do eat soup like the Predator.
And for whatever reason, like at that age, that time of my life, I was super embarrassed.
This can happen out of nowhere. Feeling embarrassed could just pop out of the blue, but most likely, in most cases, being embarrassed is because you've kind of pre-paved that getting to that place. Like you're worried about getting embarrassed, or you're worried that something's going to happen that is going to embarrass you, and then you get embarrassed, and then you run the other way, and you never attempt to do it again. Especially if you're like trying to put yourself out there, there's going to be a lot of embarrassing stuff. I mean, we get embarrassed all the time.
Yeah, the weirdest thing is we even get embarrassed about feeling embarrassed. Like an embarrassment sandwich with a side of embarrassment and a nice tall glass of cold, heartless embarrassment.
Oh my goodness.
And it doesn't have to be that way.
It doesn't have to be that way. I don't know if that's a great analogy or not. I'm having an embarrassment sandwich with a cold glass of embarrassment. Imagine a world for a moment where you didn't get embarrassed, where it was impossible for you to get embarrassed, or if you did get embarrassed, it wasn't a big deal. You just didn't run away from that situation anymore. I went to this park, and at the time my pants were kind of tight on me, and I sat on one of those little things that you sit on as a kid that go back and forth that are on the spring.
Oh, the springy animal thingies.
Yeah, the springy animal thingies. And I sat on that and basically ripped my pants all the way from the back to the front. And I had tighty whities on, and I had to walk 12 blocks back on a busy street to get back. So like I had this little jacket, and I tied this jacket around. The only way to cover everything was to basically turn my jacket into a diaper. So I wore this jacket diaper all the way back home, and people were stopping and looking. And at first I was like hugely embarrassed when it happened. But then eventually I was like, well, what am I going to do? Imagine for a moment that on purpose you did things to try and make yourself embarrassed.
You'd probably be unstop-embarrassed. Unstop-embarrassed.
That's embarrassing. Just sometimes you embarrass me. The idea here is that doing that thing that you're afraid to do is the only remedy to doing that thing. You know what I mean? So like if you're avoiding embarrassment, you're avoiding doing certain things because you don't want to embarrass yourself.
I think that instead of looking at embarrassment as a reason to feel fear or shame or any other of that bull garbage, we should look at it as earning your bravery badge or leveling up.
I like that. Klee and I, over the years, have made it our mission to just jump into things. And if there is the potential to be embarrassed by something that I did, by a mistake, by something that I said, it's the opportunity to face that embarrassment head on instead of running away from it. Every single time an embarrassing moment happens, it's kind of like, you know, hey, it's another badge that I'm wearing, another embarrassment badge. A bear badge.
I was embarrassed doing the Boogeyman Boogie in public for the first time.
Oh, you did so good, too.
Because I've had mixed response to my dance moves over the years, whether I was being goofy or actually trying to dance. And so dancing in public was actually a little intimidating for me. And so there I am in Florida in mid-September, nowhere near Halloween, dressed up like a boogeyman in public spaces, doing the absolute goofiest dance imaginable. And people stopped us and wanted to earnestly talk about what it was that we were doing. And so that was definitely an exercise in getting over the embarrassment factor. By the end of it, I wasn't as embarrassed.
Now, is facing embarrassment synonymous with putting yourself out there and facing your fears? I think it is. The thing is that once you face an extremely embarrassing moment with a smile and laughing at yourself in that moment, you've just given yourself the power to overcome just about any other moment in life. The reason I wanted to put this out there was because I know that a lot of you have contacted me about doing YouTube videos, about doing art shows, about essentially putting yourself out there. And one of the biggest things that I've noticed that you guys come back at me with is that you might embarrass yourself, or you might get it wrong, or something like that. And that's the thing about embarrassment. Embarrassment revolves around this idea that you're going to get it wrong, that there is a right way to do it. And, nothing could be further from the truth. You do it the way that you do it.
I had made an agreement with myself that I was going to say hi to everyone that came up to my booth, approached it, whatever, even if they were just walking.
You were painfully shy. Like painfully shy.
I could not bring myself. So I was like, I'm going to say hi to everyone no matter what. But sometimes I would get nervous or caught off guard and I would jumble up words in my head. I looked up and there was a Native American gentleman walking. I couldn't tell if he was walking into my booth or past it. And I looked up and tried to say the combination of hi and how are you, and it came out as how. Hand up and all, because I was trying to wave.
And then she froze.
And in my head I was like, what are you doing? He threw mad shade in my direction.
He didn't understand.
As is understandable.
A mistake, that it sucked.
I didn't have time to explain what had just happened.
Well, I mean, you were so painfully shy that even trying to explain it, I think at that point you just froze up and you just were like, I don't know what to do.
It felt like the moment lasted for 10 years and then I never saw him again. But I was like, I can't believe I just greeted someone with how.
That's my favorite story.
3 really quick things that helped me overcome embarrassment was like understanding that like I'm going to have a physical reaction. Like my body is going to, well, it's blushing. But basically what will happen is that my ears will turn bright red whenever I'm doing something. And that used to in of itself embarrass me.
Which is ironic because like we're filming a video and then my ears get red. Mm-hmm. And I think it has to do because, I still get a little bit nervous filming videos or like even standing up in front of a group of people. So like I would avoid doing those things because I knew my ears were going to get red. And that embarrassed me. So my embarrassment embarrassed me because it would physically show up.
And cause your ears to get red.
And it wasn't until years later that I was like, who cares if my ears get red? Like,
the other thing that I make sure I do is being willing to admit that, oh, I'm embarrassed, or being willing to admit, oh, I'm nervous, or whatever it is, to kind of pre-pave that and let people in the room know, because everybody's experienced embarrassment. So, like, it's not like somebody's going to be like, oh, you're embarrassed, you suck. Like, nobody's going to do that.
One of the most embarrassing experiences of my adult life was actually me and you giving the empowerment lecture down in the Keys in Florida. And the reason I was so embarrassed was because it was public speaking at a time where public speaking was not cool with me. Like I was not.
You didn't.
I wasn't doing that. I was still figuring out my own self-empowerment stuff. So I went in there with mad imposter syndrome, feeling like a total charlatan. Like, who am I to be giving this lecture, this seminar? I was embarrassed about going in there embarrassed. So, like, it was just a heaping pile of embarrassment. Had I just been willing to admit that I was nervous and embarrassed and still figuring it out, it would have eased off on that, because then I could have just been myself. But instead it was like, no, I have to be the expert. Like, people are here to listen to us say this stuff, so you got to know everything. You got to be on point at all times. You have to have answers for every question.
The other thing is that willingness to smile and laugh at yourself when you're embarrassed and not take it seriously and not get upset, because, I mean, it's just an embarrassing moment.
Dancing or talking in public and things like that, like, they terrified me. And so, like, I remember wanting to really face those fears, and I thought to myself, what's the weirdest, awkward situation that I could put myself in, right? I did this for an hour where I went to, I believe it was a grocery store or just some random store. So when people would walk up, I would open the door and say hello. All the different responses that I would get were a huge challenge because some people were like, oh, good morning. And I'd be like, oh, good morning. And then some people were like, I don't have any money.
The most important thing that I do in an embarrassing moment is that I will stop, I will breathe, and I'll remind myself, you know what, this is okay. Nobody cares. And if they do care, then, they're a beep. The whole idea is that instead of looking at a potential embarrassing moment as a thing of shame or fear or anything like that, it's taking a look at that moment and saying, like, this is an opportunity for me to overcome something that maybe has been holding me back. This sometimes takes time. Like over the years, I've done certain things to just really work on this little by little. The first thing I do is I tell my embarrassing stories. I tell my embarrassing stories because every time you tell that story and you laugh about it, where you make it as a joke, it takes that shame power away from it, because now it just kind of becomes one of those things that you did that is funny, and you can look back and think to yourself like, oh, it's just an embarrassing moment. We all have them.
Have you ever been on a date and like while you're on a date, you don't want to like pass gas, and so you hold it, and then towards the end of the date, like you've got a mountain of gas. This person closed the door, so I started to let her rip, and then they opened the door to say goodbye. And I was mid
a night's worth of gases.
Yeah, and then I try to pretend like
I can picture the goodbye and you looking like purr. Did you even try to stop?
No. I mean, there was no stopping.
Be clear about who you are. This is important to think about, because a lot of times we make the mistake of thinking that what we think the person is thinking about us is what is actually going on, but in actuality, it's all taking place in our imagination. We think that they think that we are thinking this, that they're you know what I mean. You basically think that you know what's going on in that person's brain, and that will embarrass you, or that they're thinking the worst of you, and you got to stop thinking about what other people are thinking about you, because it's just all too confusing. Just think about what you're thinking. Whenever there is an embarrassing moment, I laugh at it. Just laugh at it. Everybody is beautifully embarrassing, and everybody should laugh a little bit more.
I had 2 brown jackets that I liked, right? But one of them was the one that I would wear, because one of them, and they were identical, one of them had Michael Jackson's face on the back. And I liked Michael Jackson, but I didn't want to like sport his face on the back of my jacket. And suddenly somebody yelling across the parking lot like, hey, it's a Michael Jackson lover. And then I realized that I grabbed the wrong jacket. What's funny about that is I got chased for having a Michael Jackson jacket, but what hurt me the most was how embarrassed I was to like have to go to school and be, a Michael Jackson lover. Or whatever.
Publicly.
I don't know what publicly, yeah.
Also, change your perspective on embarrassment. Embarrassment usually has to do with perfectionism. You try to go somewhere, you want it to all be perfect, and then you do something and you embarrass yourself and you think that you messed it up or whatever and all that stuff. Get rid of that, because there's no such thing as perfectionism. You're not going to get things perfect. There's always stuff that happens, and the way that you deal with the stuff that happens, whether or not you just kind of laugh it off and say, okay, well, let's improve this, let's make it better, or if you don't and you just take it really personally and then you're full of shame and all that stuff. I mean, you could deal with things in different ways, so think about that.
You've got so many reasons to be embarrassed, though. Didn't you wear like cat sweaters to school or something?
Oh, I wasn't embarrassed about that.
We should probably do a video on when you should be embarrassed.
Thing about middle school for me was that every moment of my life was embarrassing. Like, I didn't have any friends.
What changed?
Like, there was no lower tier from where I was, so cat sweaters. Why not?
Also, think about embarrassment in the right tense, right? So, like, a lot of times we're thinking about, let's say we're going to do something like put ourselves out there, and we're worried that, oh, what if I embarrass myself? What if I say the wrong thing? What if I blah, 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 right? That's happening in the future. That hasn't happened yet. And a lot of times people look shameful at an embarrassing moment in the past. That hasn't happened either. You could rewrite that narrative for the stuff in the past, and in the stuff in the future, there's no point in thinking about it, because life is happening right now. You don't think about a potential embarrassing moment. Just go and have fun in whatever it is that you're doing. The other thing that I do not do is apologize for back in the day, like I'd do something and I would say, oh, I'm sorry. I would say I'm sorry for anything. Like I would do something, like I would accidentally hurt myself and I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. And I know that I've heard other people do that as well. And that's one of those habits that you want to take a close look at, because you don't need to apologize for having an innocent, embarrassing moment. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having an embarrassing moment. We've all had them. It's not something that you need to run away from, avoid, or crawl under a rock. It's just a moment in life that most likely you're going to look back at and laugh at. The other thing is getting back in the saddle. Like, don't allow an embarrassing moment from your past to control your decisions in the future. I know of so many people, and I myself did this for years, where I avoided situations because I was avoiding the potential of embarrassment, because I had had a moment of embarrassment in the past, and then it kept me from putting myself out there. It kept me from making choices that were really going to benefit me, simply because I was afraid to be embarrassed, to do something wrong, to get it wrong. And finally, the last thing I do is embrace my uniqueness, embrace my weirdness. I'm weird. I'm going to say weird things. Words are going to come out wrong. My ears are going to turn red. I'm going to make some really weird comments. I might sneeze at the wrong time. I might trip on something. I mean, it's just what happens. I'm clumsy sometimes. I am dorkish sometimes. It's okay. It's okay. I embrace all those things about me.
I like facing embarrassment. I think it's important.
I do too. I even kind of sort of enjoy it at this point. Whether it happens accidentally or I deliberately put myself in a situation where I know I'm going to face embarrassment. Like you said, doing the thing is the best therapy for fear of doing the thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when I put myself out there, I'm going to not let the things that are me embarrass me. I'm just not going to. At the end of the day, it's really simple. And having an embarrassing moment in your life is not something that you should allow to stop you from putting yourself out there. Being embarrassed is not something to be afraid of. Being embarrassed is just a part of life. It's just stuff that happens. We're goofy creatures, and sometimes we do goofy things and embarrass ourselves. So what? And that's it, you guys. Hopefully you guys liked that. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you got something out of it. And if you did, let me know in the comment section below. Also, I would love to hear your embarrassing stories, if you'd be willing to share them and face that fear of sharing an embarrassing story, because I think embarrassing stories are the best. So go ahead and leave that in the comment section below. And just a quick update, we're still working on things. I think we're probably going to be working on things for the next couple months or even years or whatever. But don't be surprised by the fact that I say we're still working on things, because we are still working on things. At this point, we're just trying to even figure out like where the best lighting is for filming videos in the house. I want to give a big shout out to our patrons. Thank you guys. You guys are amazing. You've been so great and supportive, and I adore you. And I also want to give a big shout out to you guys for watching this.
You want to say a really good day to people?
A really good day.
A really good day.
To you people.
Yeah, don't get it wrong. Don't embarrass yourself, or me for that matter, because you know you embarrass me.
Good day!
Oh my goodness. Let's
really
drag it.
Good
Let's
day.
drag it. Yeah, there we go. Ready? And
good day. Really good day. Please have a really good day.
You guys know that I absolutely freaking adore you. I think you are awesome. If you want to subscribe, if this is the first time that you've watched one of our things, and there it is, you can subscribe right there. And yeah, that's it. I guess I'll say goodbye. Adios.